Edit. Bring these on. We're going to let it breathe for 1 second and wait for those glorious check marks to show up. Bada bing, bada boom. We are live. Welcome in, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the latest installment of the Mile High Huddle podcast. I am, as you see, flying solo this evening. I am your fearless co-host, Zack Kelberman, and Chad Jensen, still on vacation. He'll be back, I believe, for Sunday night's podcast. And Scott is off the grid, unable to podcast with me tonight, but he is in the background producing the show this evening. So be sure to give Scott some love in the side chat. But welcome in. I'm going to give it a second. If I can learn how to talk, to let the podcast open up, let it breathe, as we like to say, and let some of the comments and viewers file in. It's a lower number tonight. I know the Avs parade was taking place in downtown Denver today. Some of y'all might be too hungover to be attending the podcast this evening, so I totally get that. You guys might have things you're doing on this wonderful Thursday evening. I'm going to wait for that number to rise before I get into the show. I want to give some shout outs early on, though. Dale, you are just incredible, bro. You're always among the first one, if not the first one in the chat. Every single podcast, every single day, doesn't matter the podcast time of day. You're always number one, so we appreciate you. Not yet for Chad. Like I said, he'll be back on Sunday night. I talked to him today. I think he's traveling back from his vacation tomorrow, so he's using the weekend to get back in the saddle and get accustomed to working again. It's a grind, and he'll get back into it this weekend. Jay Kozad, appreciate you giving your 2 cents. I see Tyler here. Of course, I see Michaela Parker of the Duchess. Evening, my beloved Broncos fans. What's up, Michaela? Hope you're doing well this evening. Kurtman03, a.k.a. Nick Kendall's burner account. Now I'm playing. Bring Daddy Nick back. Okay, I felt kind of weird saying that, but he had a show on BF Beats today. He's getting over his illness. It rhymes with Movid. I think he's doing better. It was good to see him back on the airwaves today. I hope Nick is recovering nicely where he's at. What's up, Bronny? Good to see you, bro. Bronny, again, we go way back, man, all the way back, years and years. So definitely appreciate you tuning in when you can. Chase Wellner, what's up? I see you like Cooper over Reed. I think it's kind of a random comment, but I agree with you. Jonathan Cooper has legitimate ceiling, legitimate upside. Malik Reed is kind of like a Jag, a hold the fort kind of guy. It's not Chad, it's Zach, but what's up, Ernie? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so that's going to do it for the shout outs. Again, it might be a shorter podcast. It might be a less viewed podcast this evening. We're in the dead of the offseason, guys. I mean, it's bad right now. I cannot wait for football to get back here. July 27th, the Broncos return to training camp, get football season back in full swing. And you know what? Now that the Avalanche parade is over, hockey season's over, basketball season's over, no one really cares about baseball or the Rockies right now. We're shifting our focus to football. We're less than a month away from camp, and then preseason, then the regular season. It's going to be fall before we know it. It's all about the Broncos, baby, so I can't wait. We're a day closer. So I want to get in. I'll just jump right into the meat and the potatoes of this podcast this evening. If the Broncos they have less than a month now, as I just mentioned, until camp. If there was one move to make before camp, what would that move be? And a couple publications put their own spin and own opinion on that. And I wrote one article. It was by Pro Football Network. I popped it into the side chat if y'all want to read it. It's been up on the website, milehighhuddle.com. Pro Football Network wants the Broncos to re-sign the dinosaur, Alexander Johnson. That would be the one last offseason move the Broncos should make. And I'll address that first before I get into the second idea that was floated by a media publication. If the Broncos wanted Alexander Johnson, he would have been signed by now. They showed their true colors when it came to the inside linebacker position and Johnson specifically when they brought back Josie Jewell, brought back Jonas Griffith, and brought in Alex Singleton, former two-time tackling leader of the Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't bring back Kenny Young. They didn't bring back A.J. Johnson. There's a reason for that. Maybe it's the injury last year. Johnson had that torn pectoral. Maybe he's asking for too much money. I don't know, but there's a reason, that Johnson's still unsigned as a free agent, and to my knowledge, has not taken any public visits to any NFL team. And the other, option could be that the Broncos simply don't want him. They moved on. He was a good player under the Fangio era. And since 2019, he was a starting inside linebacker, a weekly full-time starter. Great against the run. He held up against the pass. I don't know, though, why he's not signed by the Broncos or anyone. But again, if they wanted him back, he would have been back. GLP, I appreciate the stars, appreciate the Facebook interaction. What's up? I want to say hi to you real quickly. Evening, Zack and Scott. Just some love. Go Broncos. Let's ride. Absolutely, GLP. Thank you so much. So, back to AJ. There's a reason. And the reason is in George Paton's mind, Nathaniel Hackett's mind. And the bigger influence, I think, here is Ejiro Evero. New scheme, new system, new coaching staff, new ideology. And apparently, Evero said, Josie Jewell can fit my scheme. I want him. Alex Singleton can fit my scheme. I want him. Jonas Griffith can fit my scheme. I want him. It's not going to be a dependent scheme around inside linebackers. So, again, maybe they don't need another guy. Maybe they're good with who they have. And I threw this out there about a month ago. These top 3 linebackers, the ones I just named, maybe that's it. Maybe the door closes after those 3, and that's more than enough for what Evero wants to do. But Johnson, it's not just that the Broncos didn't want him. Apparently, something around the NFL is preventing Johnson from getting another job, getting a second chance. Lauren Rivera says, I think his drinking is a big part, but he's been doing better just to play. We need him. I don't really know who you're talking about when it comes to his drinking. Maybe I'm just too deep in my thoughts about AJ Johnson, but yeah. Let me know, Lawrence, the context behind that. So, get off the subject real quick about AJ. If they wanted him, they would have signed him. There's a reason why he's not signed. They needed someone that's a good against the run, a good locker room guy, and dependable. And I know Josie and AJ had the same injury, but for whatever reason, they like Josie more, and he has the contract, and AJ doesn't. So he was good. Johnson was, for what he did in Denver. He had that little dinosaur routine. And according to Pro Football Focus, he was the #1 rated inside linebacker against the run at the time of his injury, which happened last season. So there's definite utility for a player like him in the NFL. It's just, why hasn't he gotten that second chance? And it's obvious that the second chance won't come with the Broncos. So, okay, Dale says it's about Gordon and the wine tasting thing, I believe. Yeah, I don't think he has a drinking problem per se. I mean, we've drank at meals before, then got in the car. I'm not incriminating myself. I'm just saying it might have happened, might not have happened, but we all have been guilty of that. And Melvin just had the unfortunate luck of being caught and being pulled over and this and that. So I'm not going to clown him too much. I know I call him Merlot, but as long as he produces on the field, he can drink as much wine as he wants. Just don't drink and drive. Just play on the field good and keep the wine drinking, to your own house. But real quickly, the other solution, the other last move that the Broncos should make, this one's according to ESPN. And I will have a story about this on the website. If not tonight, then definitely by tomorrow morning. ESPN, I think it was Field Yates, NFL insider, said the last move the Broncos should make before training camp, so less than a month now, is to give Russell Wilson his extension. We all know it's coming. We all know he's going to get paid. We all know he's not going to, play for long on his current contract. So that's their solution, is pay Russell Wilson and just a crazy, massive amount of money, maybe 5 years, $250 million. Maybe that's the solution for the Broncos. Maybe that's the number they'll agree on. I do not know. I just don't really see that happening with the ownership situation still in flux. Rob Walton is not official as the Broncos owner. That's still a transitional period taking place right now. And I just don't think George Paton is in any hurry to give that sum to Russell Wilson. Wilson's under contract. He's a team-first guy. He's focusing rightly on football, focusing rightly on his new team, new playbook. I don't think Russ is in a hurry to sign a new contract either. Would he like one? Sure, we all would. But I don't think he's going to hold the Broncos' feet to the fire until he gets one. So I'm going to get back on that subject. We got Phil chiming in. Good evening, Zack and Scott. Hashtag, I assume he says, let's ride. Let's ride indeed, Phil. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And I want to address Sam for a second, Scott, because I don't want to get lost on the supers tonight. Sam Bam, $20 super. Thank you so much, Sam. You know how much you mean to the show and the whole network, as a matter of fact. What's up, Zach? Going solo, Kelberman. Can't wait for the Broncos season to start and can't wait for the rest of this decade with Russ as our quarterback and a young, loaded roster. Go Broncos. It's funny you mentioned loaded roster. I just tweeted a laughing emoji in response to a Pro Football Focus, which is anti-Broncos, as we all know. They had their top 10 rosters in the NFL. Guess who did not make the list? That would be the Denver Broncos. But you had the Dolphins on there, the Browns on there, the Eagles on there, not the Broncos, though. So, yeah, we all know they're loaded. We don't really care what PFF thinks. We don't really care what all these publications have to say. We know the Broncos better than anyone, and we know that roster is loaded. A little bit of optimism with the decade with Russ as our quarterback. Sam, I'm with you. I'm for it, but he would be 43 going on 44. If he gets to his late 30s, I'm talking 39 going into 40, that would be excellent for the Broncos. I know he wants to play a year, but it doesn't always work out like that. He didn't anticipate, I'm sure, having that finger injury last season. All it takes, and I'm knocking wood when I say this hard right now, all it takes is one fluke injury and his longevity is cut well short. So I hope for a decade, but I'll take easily 5 years of elite level quarterback play with this roster, this coaching staff, and this front office. The Broncos are in for an amazing at least half decade with those people at the helm. So I'm right there with you on the optimism, Sam. So about Russell Wilson real quick, then I'll get to some of the comments about the rest of tonight's topics and what you guys have to say and what you guys are thinking. I don't think they're going to pay Russ, no matter what Field Yates or ESPN thinks. They're going to at some point. It might happen during the season. It might happen after the season. It might happen next offseason. At some point, he will get paid. I just don't see that happening in a span of 29, 30 days. It's just unreasonable considering the way negotiations have been, the pace that they're at, which is glacial, very, very slow. I don't think either side is in any hurry to rip up his current contract and maybe rewrite the NFL record books when it comes to these skyrocketing, gargantuan contracts quarterbacks are signing. Franchise guys, they make a lot of money. Quarterback in the NFL, it's a highly, highly paid position, but Russell Wilson's making $35 million. It's nothing to sneeze at either. I think he realizes that, the Broncos realize that, and I don't see a deal getting done within a month or so. But we got the MHH official handle chiming in. I assume it's Scott chiming in. Makes sense for a tryout season for the Broncos and Wilson before breaking the bank or pledging your future to the team. Yeah, definitely true. The luxury of having Russ under contract with his current deal is that you can have that 1-year audition. You can take that time and say, well, let's see how he performs. And maybe we pay him commensurate to what he produces on the field. So if he has a subpar season, which I don't see happening, maybe we go to 39 or 40 and not above that. If he has an MVP type season, which very well could be the case considering the weapons around him, maybe we're okay going with 50, 55 million. That's the number that quarterbacks are getting. That's the market value that's being laid beneath his feet. So yes, Scott, I'm right there with you. It might take an audition year for the Broncos to come around on paying Russ. Just again, stupid money. I mean, it's legitimate and quarterbacks deserve it. It's the most important position in all of sports. But when you're making 55 a year and all your contract is guaranteed, like in Deshaun Watson's case, it's stupid money. We got Kenny Booker, though, hopping in. What's not stupid is Kenny Booker's comments. Kenny asks, which player has the highest chance for accidentally getting knocked out by Kareem Jackson? Hashtag AJ Boye, LOL. Yeah. Well, considering I think of Ronald Darby as like AJ Boye 2.0, just a little better than Boye was, I'll say him. But hopefully Broncos players stay out of concussion protocol because they're not getting knocked out by their own teammates. I love Kareem Jackson's tenacity, but there's a thing of being too aggressive. There's a thing of having too much tenacity, and you saw that come out. It leads to injuries, it leads to penalties, it leads to just the loss of team focus and discipline. So hopefully he can rein that in and take out his aggression on the opponents. What's up, Michael Ronquillo? Good to see you this evening, my man. Good evening, Zach, on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Let's ride and go Broncos. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. Good to see you as always. And as Dylan says here, the moderator / staff writer for MHH, Sup Broncos Country, make sure you hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Please, guys, it takes 2 seconds, and I promise it helps the channel more than anything else you can do. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go through some of the comments here. I've already addressed the topic for today. Again, it might be a shorter podcast this evening. The number is at 91 right now, 91 viewers. Usually we're a lot higher than that, so I'm kind of reading the room right now, and I'll take it for what it is. So people want the Broncos. I see one suggestion here from Jared Niermeyer. That's a cool last name. Justin Sternad for Deion Jones, and Atlanta eats $11 million of Deion's contract. Well, if his contract is that crazy, I don't want Deion Jones. And I'm sure Scott has a much more personal opinion on Deion Jones because he's the Falcons guy, but what for? I mean, we're trading a backup inside linebacker who's probably going to be cut for another linebacker you don't need. No, they're good there. Let's get Benito the reps. Let's get Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb and Jonathan Cooper the reps. I don't want Deion Jones in a Broncos uniform. I don't want that contract. I don't want the baggage. Just say no to Deion Jones. All right, guys. What are we doing tonight? What's going on tonight? How are we feeling tonight? Anyone go to the Avs parade today? Let me know. How was it? Was it pandemonium 3 years ago? Or I'm sorry, a few years ago now. The Broncos had a parade celebrating their 3rd championship, and the Avalanche had a parade celebrating their 3rd championship. So maybe the Broncos get the upper hand once again and celebrate number 4 this time, or next year, sometime next year. That'd be pretty incredible. Okay, so he's an edge, moves Barron back to inside linebacker. Yeah, I said you have Cooper, you have Benito, you have Gregory, you have Malik Reed, you have so many players that are playing edge already. Plus, you have Draymond Jones off the edge. You signed DJ Jones, who's going to get after the quarterback. No, I don't think they need Deion Jones. I don't think they're going to go after Deion Jones. I don't want anyone else's leftovers. I want the Broncos to develop the players they have already. And Jared, the only thing I'm with you on is Baron Browning. I'd for sure move him back to inside linebacker, but Ejiro Evero has other ideas. For now, as we know it, Baron Browning is a full-time outside linebacker, and Scott chiming in, Deion Jones is small and speedy. You'd want him to be in coverage, but there's a chance he gets cut outright. I mean, it sounds like Sternad, doesn't it? He's good in coverage, but he can get cut. If we already have Sternad, why would you trade for another Sternad? And Scott's clarifying he's not an edge. He played inside. He's about 215 pounds. No. I'm okay. Enough about Deion Jones. We got Eddie Algarin chiming in. What's up, Eddie? How about trading for an extra defensive back? I mean, some people tend to think the Broncos secondary could use another reinforcement. I happen to think they're quite good with the players that they have. I mean, honestly, you look at cornerback, okay? And I'm aware you need a lot of corners at the NFL level nowadays, but you have your guys in Surtain, Darby, K'Wan Williams. You're super high on Michael Ojemudia. You have Essang Bassey coming back. You're super high on Damari Mathis. You spend a draft pick on Faion Hicks. Jaquan McMillian, an undrafted free agent, can make some noise. That's at cornerback. It's safety. You're good with Justin. You have Kareem Jackson. Caden's going to be, I think, a future star. You have Jamar Johnson. You have PJ Locke. That's 5 safeties. How many more do you really need? They're probably going to cut one of those cornerbacks. They're probably going to cut one of those safeties. So I'm of the opinion they're good with who they have. If an injury arises, sure, go out and trade for an extra defensive back or sign one for insurance. Absolutely. But as of right now, I think they can definitely make do. And if anyone knows how to make do, again, it's Ejiro Evero, who was a secondary coach with the Rams before he came over to Denver. So I'll defer to Evero when it comes to the secondary. Huero Vidal chiming in. $4.99 super. Appreciate you so much, Huero. And I apologize. I think it was the last solo show. I did not see your super. I was producing and potting by myself, so it kind of fell by the wayside. So I'm happy I got to shout you out during the show. Finally caught alive. Hi, Scott. Just a friendly reminder that Teddy got Hamler injured. LOL. Excited for Ojemudia. Don't forget he laid out Ruggs. Huero, you made my evening, buddy. You made my entire day. Thank you so much. I can't see Scott's face right now, but I'm pretty sure he has some humble pie he's munching on because, again, Teddy did get Hamler injured. That was a hospital ball. I don't care what anyone has to say. Huero's with me on that, and we are right. We are definitely right about that. So I appreciate you, Huero. We got Django De La Cruz. What's up? What's going on? Sam Bam, $10 super. Thank you so much, Sam. Second super of the evening. He goes, Zach, do you have any concern about the Broncos' run defense? Seems like we had a good front seven and pass rushers, but do we have run stoppers as well? It's all you have. It really is all you have. There's way more question to me, Sam, about the Broncos' pass rushing ability than their run stopping ability. I know they got gashed up the middle a lot last year, but look at the bodies that you have. I mentioned Alex Singleton. He led the Eagles in tackles 2 years in a row. He's a run stopper. Josie Jewell, he's not a pass coverage guy. He's a run stopper. DJ Jones is arguably the best run-stopping interior defensive lineman in the NFL. The Broncos have him. Draymond Jones can stop the run. McTelvin Agim can stop the run. Mike Purcell can stop the run. Deshaun Williams can stop the run. Bradley Chubb can stop the run. Everyone on this defense can stop the run. Even Randy Gregory. It's not his forte, but he's not bad in run defense as well. Players like Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain coming down from the secondary in run support. They're great in the box. I have no concern, Sam, about the Broncos personnel. Why they were gashed was not because of the players. It was because of the scheme. It was the scheme that Fangio was running last year and Donatel, what they were doing, the spacing along the defensive line, the techniques the players were at. It's not going to be a problem this year. They're going to stop the run with authority. I would be surprised if they were worse than like top 6 or 7 in run defense in yards allowed per game. All right. What else? What else, guys? We're going to ignore Scott's rebuttal. That was definitely a hospital ball, and be sure to tell him that in the yeah, we'll forever disagree. I mean, we actually took the argument off cam after the last podcast. He was trying to explain to me that if it was thrown too high and you have to jump, it's a hospital ball. I mean, no, if you lead the receiver into a massive hit, it's a hospital ball. And that's what he did. If you watch the play, Hamler would not have been injured if it was thrown correctly. That's all I'm saying. But Benjamin Flores about the run defense. It was not too long ago. We goose-egged the Titans and King Henry. Hopefully we get back to that level of run defense. Yeah, there were times in the Fangio era where they were really, really good against the run. I mean, there were stonewalling a lot of running backs, and you bring up Derrick Henry, and it was true. They just were gashed up the middle when teams were taking advantage of them. And I noticed that happened more so when the Broncos were struggling against the pass in their secondary. And that was a result of injuries and this and that and matchups, what have you. But when you're susceptible against the pass, it's just, it makes defending the run that much harder. And that's where the Broncos went off the rails. But when they were playing at their best under Fangio, it was tough to run on them. And it was tough because you have so many players like the ones I mentioned, the holdovers and the incumbents that are around in the Ejiro Evero era. You have those players that are so good against the run. That's why, you stonewalled King Henry. You can have success against any running back in the NFL, no matter how imposing they are. All right. Chris Chambers, you were a great receiver for the Dolphins at one point. He asked, what do you guys think about bringing Chris Harris Jr. back? I mean, for what reason? A one-day contract so he can retire and go into the Ring of Fame, maybe? I don't know. That bridge is not just burned. They took the ashes and put it in an urn and put that urn in a river somewhere. I mean, it's not going to happen. There was a lot of bad blood on both sides considering how that departure took place. I know it was the Elway era. I know George Payton is now the GM, but you don't need Chris Harris Jr. And sentimentality aside, if you watched Harris's tape with the Chargers, it was bad. He was a liability in coverage, and he's still just blaming everybody else. No, his best years are behind him. I appreciate everything Chris did for the Super Bowl, the Broncos defenses, the no-fly zone, how great he was. He was one of the best slot cornerbacks to ever suit up at the NFL level. But the key word there is was. His time has passed. They have Surtain now, who's the leader of that cornerback room. They brought in K'Wan Williams, who, when he's healthy, is a very capable slot cornerback. You don't need Chris Harris Jr., and that's why he's not coming back. What else? We're going to scroll through some of the comments. Again, guys, if you have any questions, any comments, anything, let me know. I'll address it. We'll have some debate. We'll have some banter. We'll have fun this evening. All right, we got a question from Jared. I'll take another one from Jared. I appreciate your contributions. Could Eric Tomlinson or Andrew Beck be the odd man out at tight end? And if it's one of those two, is the Tomlinson signing already a mistake? Saubert being the guy we should have loved. I was surprised, Jared, they brought back Saubert considering they signed Tomlinson and Beck for that matter. All those guys are the same player. And Saubert might have the best receiving ability of those three, but that's not saying that much. So to me, it comes down to how many tight ends are you keeping and who is the best out of those three. So Alberto and Dulcich are locks. We have to figure either one of Tomlinson or Saubert are locks. I just don't know who. It might come down to keeping three tight ends. It might come down to maybe keeping both, considering one's going through an injury right now. I feel like, though, if this is a battle, training camp and preseason will determine that. Whoever is healthy and whoever is the most capable and willing to be a blocker on the Broncos offense with the added ability to catch a pass every now and then will make the cut. So if I had to give you my prediction, I'm going to say they brought back Saubert later in the process for a reason. Maybe you're right, Jared. Maybe it was like Mike Boone. You know, the Broncos signed him and they immediately had buyer's remorse. There is a reason, you know, he's been out of practice, Tomlinson. He has a little bit of an injury, and availability is the best ability. So we'll see how the tight end room shakes out. All we know, though, in that room, there's two locks. And if there's two more seats, then they're wide open for grabs right now. Darius Simmons, great viewer of the program, chiming in. Zach, do you think Evero will get a head coaching job if he has a top 5 defense this season? Or will it take a couple seasons of consistently great defense for him to be in consideration? Well, I'm going to address the political aspect of the question first. And I know because he's a minority coach, they're trying to give them more chances and doing more things for minority coaches. I would not be surprised, considering that fact, if a progressive team, who knows who that is, if they see what Evero does in Denver this year, if they give him a call. There are a lot less qualified candidates who have gotten head coaching interviews recently than Evero. If he has a top 5 unit, he will be in consideration. If he does it 2 years in a row, top 10 or top 5, he will for sure get an offer, if not an outright hire. Yeah, he's a guy the Broncos are grooming for sure. And I can even say the same maybe about Dwayne Stukes. I just love his intensity. I love what he brings to the team in terms of accountability and responsibility, his message, his mindset, his values, his morals. I think the Broncos have a few head coaching candidates on this roster under Hackett, and it might not be long, Darius, before we see that, you know, there's the McVay tree, the Shanahan tree. There might be the Hackett tree growing out of Denver, and Evero could be the first one sprouting from that, from those limbs. Chris Chambers, again, is Randy Gregory going to be fully healthy for week 1? That's the hope right now, Chris. That is definitely the hope. They kept him out of OTAs. They kept him out of minicamp. He went through the mental aspect. He took mental reps, as they like to say in the NFL. He was in the classroom helping out. He helped out Baron Browning's conversion to outside linebacker. He's been a good teammate, good soldier so far, doing everything asked of him, but he's still under recovery and in rehab from that arthroscopic rotator cuff surgery he had on his shoulder. The good thing is he lost the sling. So he's slingless now. He can move his arm, I assume, with more range and motion, but he's not yet ready. I'm assuming not even close to start football activities. They might put him on PUP. This is my guess. Nothing I've been told or I've been informed of. They might put him on PUP to open training camp, but if all things hold, and assuming no setbacks, again, knock on wood, he should be out there at Seattle week 1, Monday Night Football, sacking Drew Lock or Geno Smith. That's my prediction. We got JR Caprone. Appreciate you, JR. Longtime viewer of the podcast, of the product. Appreciate you. Do you think they'll utilize Mike Boone more? He seems like a very capable running back. Yeah. I mean, we're the biggest Mike Boone truthers around. Me, Scott, and Chad. Like, we just are pounding the table for him to get a shot. And I think he could be a capable, if not better, running back for the Broncos. I was hoping JR, he would be, or Junior, I don't know what you go by. I hope I'm not butchering that. I was hoping he would be RB2 before the Broncos brought back Melvin Gordon. I thought he can hold that down. He can play all 3 phases in terms of he's a runner, he's a pass catcher, and he plays on special teams. He can be your kick returner. He's fast, he's shifty, he has some power to him. I did not like the signing, did not know much about Mike Boone when he was signed, but after watching him play the handful of plays he was on the field for, I was impressed. You know, color me impressed with Mike Boone. I would hope he gets his chance. Right now, he's the number 3 running back, but at his salary, you might wonder, what are the Broncos doing? Scott and I talk about this all the time. What are they doing with Mike Boone? Are they keeping him around at that salary? Could they maybe renegotiate his contract? Could they release him and re-sign him at a cheaper contract? Could they trade him? A lot of questions up in the air with Mike Boone, and that's a very underrated but mysterious storyline heading into training camp for sure. Dale, good shout here. Good shout, Dale. Christian Parker, do I have that name right? Yeah, as replacement DC if Evero leaves within a couple years. Yeah, CP is the secondary coach. He was the assistant the last couple years. And the secondary has just blossomed with Parker at the controls. He was a big reason why Surtain was so good as a rookie, and he's made a lot of do with Simmons and Caden Stearns as well. Dale, it might be a case where if the Broncos secondary returns back to that no-fly zone stature in 2022, maybe Parker gets a head coaching interview before Evero even. Like I said, there are so many young, up-and-coming assistants on the Broncos coaching staff right now. It's a guarantee at least one of them will get a nibble for a promotion for a bigger and better position. And if the Broncos secondary, if Surtain becomes an all-pro and Simmons is back to being an all-pro or Pro Bowler, they lead the league in picks or takeaways or whatever, lockdown defense, I would not be surprised to see Parker get at least some interest for a head coaching position, or maybe even a DC position at first for another team. Okay, let's see. We're at 31. God, as slow as it could be, guys, it's still, I look at the time and 31 minutes goes by, a half hour goes by, and it's like, how? You guys make this so fun. You guys make the time fly by, and it's not cliche. When you're having fun, you look up and a half hour does go by, and I am having fun. It's because of you guys. Definitely appreciate that. Love you all. All right. I'm going to go through. Okay, we got Facebook user. Maybe Scott can tell me who this is, but Facebook user wants to know, who is the fourth receiver on the roster? Is it KJ? Yes. Can he afford to still be number 4 in the depth chart at the end of the year, or will he be a trade candidate mid-season? Well, I mean, and afford in what way, though? He's a second-round pick. He's been dealing with injuries. He never really got a shot to be a starter. I think NFL teams and the Broncos know he doesn't profile as a wide receiver one. He'll never be a dominant alpha Randy Moss receiver. He's a speed guy. He's a shorter guy who has speed. He's, good with the ball in his hands. He's not just a speed guy, but he profiles more as a number 2, number 3. So if the Broncos, for their money, they're fine with it. They're fine with paying KJ $1 million a year to be the number 4. KJ, though, might want to see if the grass is greener on the other side. But we don't know any of this. This is all speculation right now on June 30th. It depends how KJ plays. It depends how the Broncos offense goes. It's so hard for him because he's buried beneath, as you note here, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick. And he's probably going to fight with Montrell for some reps as the speedy receiver on offense. But he's the only receiver among any of those guys, maybe except for Montrell, that can fly down the field. And we all saw it on the 80-yard touchdown against the Vikings last preseason from that Drew Lock bomb. He can fly. He can really be a game breaker. So they're going to roll with him as a number 4. He's locked into that role. If he wants to be there by the end of the year, we do not know, but it will all come down to how he plays. He has to get healthy, he has to stay healthy, and he has to produce. Those 3 things have to happen, and then we'll all revisit the scenario. Michael chiming in again. Great show tonight, Zack, on the Mile High Huddle podcast. I am excited for the Broncos football season. Let's ride and go Broncos. You and me both, Michael. I mean, I'm not a big hockey guy. I'm not a big, I love sports, but football is like, here's football and here's every other sport down here. Football is my number 1, my true love, and I cannot wait for it to get back. I just want it to be July already. I'm excited for tomorrow to roll around because it's July, knowing that later this month, Broncos will be back in training camp, and the next month we have preseason football right around the corner. Can't wait for it. All right, what else? Okay, I'll take this from R. Butler. Is there any good news on Jeudy during OTAs? And it kind of ties into what Junior or JR asked. What are your honest thoughts on Jeudy? But R. Butler, any good news on Jeudy during OTAs? I only saw Russell Wilson praising other receivers. I know he should be number 2, but Timmy P will probably take that spot. Yeah. I don't know. Again, these are the wide receiver question, guys, are so tough to answer because any of these receivers could be the ones that break out. And conversely, any of them could be the ones that bomb. Maybe Tim Patrick has a horrible season. Maybe Courtland Sutton has a horrible season. We don't know. But there was good news coming out of OTAs from Jeudy. It wasn't just bad news. It wasn't just the arrest. It wasn't just the injury. Russell Wilson has talked about Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy was at Russell Wilson's passing camp after Judy's daughter was born. They've been putting work together on the field. It's tough when you're injured and you dealt with that legal situation. You can't practice fully, and practices are already watered down at OTAs. But there was nothing bad enough where I'm jumping ship on Jeudy or selling all Jeudy stock. He's my number one breakout player on this Broncos roster for sure. If there's any guy that's going to bust out of nowhere and become more of a household name, it's Jerry Jeudy. And Butler, I don't know about you, I don't care about titles so much, like number 1, number 2, number 3. Whoever is the best receiver is going to be the Broncos' top receiver, but they can have a lot of top receivers. It might be where one guy gets, instead of one guy having 1,600 yards, maybe it's 1,200 for this guy, 1,100, 800, something like that. As long as they all coalesce and they all develop chemistry and rapport with Russell Wilson, which they have thus far, I'm just okay with that. I'm fine with that. So it seems like for Jeudy, though, no news is good news, and we'll see how his development takes place in make or break year 3. Wero jumping in, $4.99 super. Thank you so much, Wero. Second of the evening. I don't think we should trade any of our 4 starting receivers. They all bring something unique. I think we'll get to see them blossom with Russell. Yeah, I mean, well, you can argue that Courtland and Tim are the same receiver, both big-bodied possession guys, big catch radiuses, though Tim Patrick might be your safest receiver, your most reliable receiver. He just doesn't drop passes. He catches everything. He thrives with any quarterback, any scheme. He's just big Tim Patrick guy. I love him a lot. But yeah, like I said with KJ Hamler, he's the one that's the speed demon. Courtland and Tim are the possession guys. Jerry Jeudy's the route running guy. He's your Marvin Harrison in terms of route running and footwork and getting open. They all bring something unique to the table. And then you pepper those players in with Albert O, Greg Dulcich, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. It's going to be an explosive offense. And I don't care who's the benefactor of that explosion. I just hope they explode. And there are benefactors after what we've seen since Peyton Manning retired. Thank you, Wero, for the comment. What else? Going to scroll through here, take a scroll through the comment section. What else? I see a Baker Mayfield comment. Lawrence Rivera, should we keep Melvin Gordon as our number 1? Okay, I'm not answering this question. Okay, moving on from that. For sure. What's up, Mike? Good to see you. Okay, we got one from JR that I'll take. JR, question of the day. Who do we have on defense right now that can consistently cover tight ends, because it seems like they avoid that area for a while now? Well, PS2 can guard anyone. So if I'm playing Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, I'm thinking about putting Pat Surtain on that guy because he'll lock him down. Simmons is good against tight ends. You don't really have a linebacker. This is the problem, though. Unless you want to deploy Baron Browning as an inside linebacker or put him on a tight end, you don't have a true linebacker that thrives in pass coverage. That's not Randy Gregory's calling card. It's not Bradley Chubb's. It's not Cooper's, or it's not Malik Reed's. It's not Singleton's, Josie Jewell's. They had that guy in Baron Browning, and they moved him to outside linebacker. So if they do face a tight end, and they will, a capable one that can hurt them badly, I think Surtain, Simmons, Caden Stearns is another guy that's really good in pass coverage. I think they bring him off the bench in sub packages to guard tight end. So between those 4, I think you can minimize the damage that a tight end would do to you. Yeah, Scott agrees about the Melvin Gordon comment, and it's all love. It's all love, Lawrence. When we talk about Melvin Gordon being the RB1 and satisfying his ego, I'm just not going to even waste my breath. So, Jeff Noyes thinks the Raiders pick up Baker Mayfield and trade Derek Carr by midseason. I would love that, because Baker Mayfield can hold Derek Carr's jockstrap as a quarterback, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think Derek Carr is like a top 5 guy, but I think Derek Carr is criminally underrated, especially by Broncos fans. And Mayfield just has too much baggage, man. You want an adult at quarterback, and that's why it says something when when your employer would go out and trade and move mountains to get Deshaun Watson to play quarterback instead of you. And that's where I think Baker Mayfield is. All right, so Mike Givens is maybe, Scott, here's a truce, okay? We'll call it a truce on this play. It was an ambulance throw, not a hospital ball from Teddy the Hamler. I can get on board with that. But where do ambulances go? The hospital. Nick Cervantes, that sounds like a new name. So welcome, Nick, if you're new here. Appreciate you chiming in. How do you feel about the team in 2022? Nick, I feel absolutely incredible, man. I feel great about the Broncos' chances, and I'm keeping it realistic. I'm not saying they're going to go 17-0. I'm not saying they're going to win the West. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, but I'm not saying that either. I mean, they can do anything this season. We've seen one-year turnarounds happen more and more and more around the league in recent years. And you need two things for that to happen, more than likely. A good coaching staff, a forward-thinking one with an offensive mind, and a franchise quarterback. If you have both those things, you're in good shape to win a championship. The Broncos, we think, with Hackett and Russell Wilson, have those two now. So I'm thinking, Nick, objectively, realistically, unbiasedly, 11-6, 12-5 for the Broncos. They make the playoffs, and whatever happens from there, happens from there. As long as they get in, anything can happen. But I am feeling as good as I was when I saw Peyton Manning at his best in Denver. Because I think for consistency's sake, they're not just going to compete for 1 year, 2 years. With Hackett and Wilson and the pieces they have on offense and defense, they can compete for years and years and years. And that's why I'm so encouraged. Chris Chambers, appreciate you, Chris, with another comment tonight. We are going to be good from the jump. Everyone's saying it's going to take some time because of new coaches and a new quarterback in Russell Wilson, but we're going to be explosive. I can't wait. Yeah, Chris, it's not to say the Broncos aren't going to have bumps along the way. They are going to hit potholes. They could maybe lose week 1 against the Seahawks. They could drop a game in week 2 early in the season to find their footing. But once they do find that footing on offense and defense and special teams, the whole team, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with for any team they face, Kansas City included. They are going to be among the NFL's best, and it very well could happen from week 1. They can hit the gas pedal and never look back. But you almost, you kind of want to guard against that if you can, because there's something to be said about, how do I put this in a PG form, about blowing it too early. And that's what you don't want from the Broncos either. You don't want them to start off, like 6-0 and they end up freaking 8-9. You want them to maybe go through that adversity early in the season, go through a losing streak if it comes to one, and learn from that, get better from that, grow from that. Adversity betters you as a team. It didn't under Fangio or Vance Joseph, but I think it will under Hackett with the right coaching staff. Yeah, peaking too early. That's the PG way of putting it. You don't want that to happen. We all know someone that was funny in middle school versus they not now. They peaked in middle school. We don't want the Broncos peaking in middle school. We want them peaking in their adulthood. And that adulthood might come in week 16, 17, or 18, or maybe even the postseason. So they're going to be bumps. They're going to be losses. They're going to be moments where we think to ourselves, and this is true, guys, you can hold me to it. There's going to be moments where you think to yourself, maybe Hackett wasn't the right hire. Maybe Russell Wilson wasn't the right quarterback. Maybe we shouldn't have made that trade. You're going to have moments like that. They could be fleeting. They could be 1 second, an hour, a day, whatever, but it's part of the NFL season. They are not going to go 18-0. They are not going to run right through it to the Super Bowl in February. We would all love that, but we have to be realistic. But if they do go through those tough times, that adversity, it's going to make them better. And that's the major difference I think we'll see for Hackett compared to Vic Fangio. Okay. Scott makes me laugh in the side comments. Yeah, for sure. Rome wasn't built overnight. And Darius says, and it's true, you want to peak in December. Yeah, I mean, I always reference it a lot, is the 2007 Giants. And I know that was a Cinderella story, and not every team can be like that, and it's once a generation, whatever. But it's the case of the Giants. Like, they were not good toward the end of the year. And I think they were like 500 in late December, and they barely got into the postseason. But look what happened. As long as you get hot at the right time, you're golden. And that's where I think the Broncos will end up, considering how their schedule is too. It's not, all easy then difficult, all difficult then all easy. It's interspersed. Tough matchups, easier matchups, tough matchups, easier matchups. And if they lose some of those, it's going to make them better so they can maybe peak in December or January, what have you. Nick says 12-5. Mike says 12-5. Yeah, I mean, Jay says 10-7. I think 10-7 is underselling the Broncos. If they go 7-10 with Fangio, Teddy Bridgewater, and Drew Lock with a tougher schedule, I don't see how they don't get better than 10-7. That would be a disappointment. Honestly, I know it's a winning record, double digits, more than likely maybe a playoff berth. That would be disappointing, though, considering how all in you went on the Broncos season if you are George Paton. And Rob Walton, especially, coming in paying almost $5 billion for this organization. 11-6, 10-7 should be the absolute bare minimum floor for this Broncos team, all healthy. 13-4, I think, could be the Broncos' ceiling. And I still think to myself, the numbers 13 plus 4 is 17. I'm not used to that quite yet. I will be. But 10-7 to me would be like, I'm happy about it, but it's kind of like underwhelming. So we'll see. Jared says 11-6. I think you're right on the money. 11-6, 12-5, and I will gladly take either record. Trust me. It would be a nice change of pace from anything we've seen. DR asks, what games are you going to? Well, for sure, we have the MHH meet and greet scheduled for week 3 against the San Francisco 49ers at Empower Field at Mile High. I think that's September 25th. So we'll be there for the MHH meet and greet, primetime games. We're hanging out all day. Scott and I are trying, and I think we are going to go out to London for the Broncos. Is it week 8 matchup against the Jaguars? And we're going to do more than likely one more meet and greet on the road at the back end of the schedule. That's to be determined. So those 2 games definitely, or more than likely, and then a third game that we'll announce in the future. Phil, Zach, pick one game you are really looking forward to. I mean, we talked about this before, and the easy one is Kansas City. That's one for sure. Seattle, man. Honestly, Seattle. It's personal. I can only imagine how it must feel for Drew Lock or Russell Wilson. It's personal for me. I have so many freaking Seahawks trolls in my mentions on Twitter almost every day. Every time I post something pro Russell Wilson or pro week 1 for the Broncos, they come at me, denouncing Russell Wilson and talking mad trash. Like, I can't wait for that week 1 game. And it's important for the Broncos too, because they went all in. They pulled off a blockbuster trade. They gave Randy Gregory $70 million. They put all the cherries on top of that Sunday. They draw Seattle in week 1, a team that's inferior on paper. You're going to Seattle. You're closing out the first week of the NFL season on primetime television in front of the whole country and the whole world. They have to win that game as far as I'm concerned to get that season off on the right foot. I mean, the season's not over if they lose, but the crap that they'll hear if they lose that game and just the overall cloud it would put over the building would not be a good start. I'm looking forward to week 1. I'm looking forward to not just the Broncos winning this game. And listen up, Seahawks fans, I'm looking at you right now. Not just the Broncos winning this game, but winning it handily, blowing the doors off of Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Drew Lock, and the rest of that Seahawks team, getting the ultimate revenge on Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and all of them. I'm looking forward to going on national television if I'm the Broncos and making an absolute statement, telling the Chiefs with our play on the field, we're back, and you better watch out. We're coming for you. Wait till week 13, whatever it is, week 12. Wait till later in the season. We get you in our house on national television. We're going to do the same thing to you we're doing to the Seahawks tonight. So the easy choice would be Kansas City, but the game I'm looking forward to is definitely week 1. You got to make a statement. You got to go into Seattle and kick their freaking asses. Period. All right. What time is it? 48 minutes going on 49. We have a few more minutes. I'm going to take a few more questions. Michael Ronquillo asked, will Chad return Sunday? Yes, I believe he'll be back Sunday. I think he said he's traveling back from his vacation tomorrow, Friday. So he should be back in the saddle for Sunday night's podcast. That is going to be my last 4E week, though. Quick little programming note. I am taking a week off for vacation time, considering it's the only time I'll have before the season, and we're starting our radio venture in mid-July. So no podcast for me next week. I think we'll have Chad and Scott on the show, but Scott is going to be in the background on Sunday for Chad and I The football priest return temporarily. We'll be back, full time in the season though. What else? Appreciate you, Michael. I tend to be, when I talk about, coaches and revenge games and pettiness and Melvin Gordon, gets me fired up, man. You can see it on my face. Gets me all nice and red. I appreciate that, Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. People, when you tell people that you cover an NFL team and you're an NFL writer, reporter, journalist, whatever, they think, oh, it's such a glamorous job and you only work from, September to January. No. I mean, if you're like me or Chad or Scott or anyone, you work a year freaking round, day in and day out, and you got to get away when you can. And this is the only window. So just take a little time to myself and recharge my batteries and come back, bigger and better than ever before, hopefully. So appreciate you, Lawrence. All right. What did I miss in the side comments while I was ranting about Seattle and beating their doors down on national television? We got Dale in the comments saying, great show, Zach, Dylan, and Scott. Thank you, Broncos country, for the fantastic discussions. As always, too bad Michaela was so quiet tonight. Michaela, you've been called out. You're going to take that from Dale? Let him talk that smack to you now. I appreciate you, Dale. Appreciate you, Michaela. And Michael signing off. Good night, Michaela, Dale, Jeff, and Mike on YouTube. Sorry for leaving YouTube, back to Facebook. Michael, all good, man. Appreciate you. No matter how any of y'all are tuning in, we appreciate you keeping your eyes and ears on the Mile Huddle network. So that might actually do it, though. If you don't have any, okay, Scott's telling me we have to go, so we're going to go. That's going to do it for the Mile Huddle podcast this evening. Again, it was a shorter podcast, but hopefully longer on Sunday when Chad is back in the saddle. And going forward, guys, as we get out of the dead period and get back to football activities, we'll, of course, have much more to talk about, but we'll get you there and we'll ride the dead period with y'all. In the meantime, until we see you guys next, which is Sunday, be sure to follow the pod on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. You can follow myself on Twitter at Kelberman NFL. Be sure to follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merchandise, like the hat I'm wearing, trucker hat, shirts, coffee cups, tank tops, anything you can imagine, HuddleUpPod.com. Get your merch on. Check it out. And Facebook.com/MileHuddlePod. Like that page and follow that page. Guys, if you haven't, please, please, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest and the deacon a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if you can't, totally get it, totally understand. Do these 3 things. It helps out the channel more than you can ever imagine. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. Again, it's the best thing you can do and helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you. That is gonna do it, though. Tomorrow night, Friday, we have Dove Valley Deep Divers, I believe, with Eric and Lance. I'm assuming. We're mixing our podcasts pairings up so much now, it's hard to keep up. But we have DVDD tomorrow. We're off Saturday. Nope show on Saturday. And we have the Mile Huddle podcast. I didn't mess it up tonight. The Mile Huddle podcast on Sunday night. Chad and I back together. So have a great weekend, guys. Hope you have a great start to your 4th of July holiday. Still can't talk, though. Things haven't changed much. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.